I'm really playing Starfield while we do this, by the way.
All right, what is going on, everybody? It's LittleBobby here with Direct Gaming. I'm here with Lethal.
Hola.
And I'm here with ThePlatinumChin. These two guys haven't been around for a while, but they had to come back because we got to talk Starfield. Okay, so Starfield is like the biggest game of the year, maybe. And it's had like a lot of positive and negative stuff going around about it. So we're going to talk about it. And yeah, first let's open up with like the review controversy. Chin, what do you think about this game getting really low and really high reviews?
Feels, I don't know, like some of the reviews feel very tribal. Like, how do I explain it? Like, people are stuck in their camps of, you know, screw Microsoft, or Microsoft's the godsend, instead of actually just kind of looking at the game as a whole. I think this game has a lot to offer. The more I play it, the more I do enjoy it, but also at the same time, the more my complaints kind of grow with it as well. For me personally, I don't see this game ever getting lower than like a 7. Realistically, like, it should never get lower than a 7. I don't know about 100. I think, you know, I haven't beat the game, so maybe people really do have a case for like a 9, but like where I'm at, I'm sitting between a 7 and an 8 right now, and I'm really enjoying the game, and I don't understand where people are coming in with 6s or 4s. That to me it feels like they're trying to take a personal jab at Bethesda or Microsoft at that point to make a point, and I don't know. It feels off. It feels like there's lack of integrity in that aspect, but I'm enjoying the game, and I think some reviews kind of really hit the feelings that I have as I'm going through it. And so I feel like it's at a good spot. What's it currently at? Like an 82 on Xbox, something like that. 83.
I think the 83.
Yeah, I think it's 83.
Like, for how I feel about it, I feel like that's fair. I'd like to hear what you guys think, though, but I'd be in agreement about where the Metacritic score is at.
Yeah, what about you, Lethal? What do you think about like the reviews that have come in?
So I took the approach of like ignoring the reviews, kind of. I didn't want to look too deep into it because I feel like with a game like this, we talked about so much how big this game was going to be for Xbox, right? I think we talked about this probably earlier in the year, how like this was going to end up being the game that was going to be like super looked into, right? Super all eyes on it when it came out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So like I already knew like off the rip, like it was going to be all over the place. Like I think you were going to get some of those like really harsher ones, maybe some that are a little bit more like focusing on, you know, maybe more like the fun aspect of it. But I knew it was going to be all over the place. So I think for me, I kind of went into it just like I didn't look too into it, saw the scores, and I was like, all right, it's still going to be a game where I'm just going to still play the heck out of it because I'm a big fan of Bethesda, right? But regardless of the fact that they got like acquired by Microsoft, right? Xbox, that was never going to change me. And I know there's like the whole narrative of like those, you know, those console warriors that are like, I'm done playing Bethesda games now that they're acquired. And it's like, dude, that's stupid. I'm still going to play the crap out of this game and give it a shot when it comes out. So I think I with Chin, I'm in that same ballpark of like, I think an 83, I think like an 8 for me, or like a 3 out of 5 is probably where I'm at, right? Like a 3, 4, I think. So like I can see like that 80 percentile kind of spot there just being like the perfect spot for me, I think, too, in terms of where I'm at with it. But there's like a lot to like and a lot of stuff to like not get into and not be too big on. But at the same time, I also came to this like knowing what to expect, right? I think some people are, I don't know, might be going to this, but maybe other expectations besides the fact that like, I don't know, like if you're used to the past Bethesda games, you kind of know what to expect going into. So at least that's how I looked at it, right? I was thinking like, oh man, they're going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just like, man, I know what this company does and I've seen what they've done in the past. I'm like, I know what to expect going into it. And I think what my experience with it so far is, it's like, it's right on spot with that. Like I knew what to expect going into it. So yeah, I think I'd say I'm in that same ballpark of like, I think like it's a pretty fair score being at like an 83. That's where I'm at.
Okay, yeah, and I would agree that score is fair, right? I think it's kind of silly that, you know, you guys are right? Like a big part of like reviews right now are tribalism, right? that you've got like the Sony fans, the Xbox fans. The Sony fans are gonna rate it low, like user score. The Xbox fans are gonna rate it 100, right? And we talked about before, like, hey, there's like 10 outlets has Xbox in the name, right? Plus there's like Windows Central and Windows Hub, and like they're all reviewing the game, giving it really, really glowing scores. But then you see like IGN go like, it's kind of mid, right? Like they said, hey, it's a 7, and we saw a lot of people who are in the Xbox camp get really upset about that. I can absolutely understand why you would rate this a 7.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that probably in the next little section we have. Or the next 2 sections we're going to go over. But yeah, the reviews, I mean, there was definitely a case where if you're a Bethesda fan and especially if you're like an Xbox fan right now, Lethal said it best, like Xbox fans were looking for this, like this has to change the world for Xbox. Otherwise, what's the point? Because like, especially after Redfall, they've been on the struggle bus for a while, right?
Oh, Redfall.
Except for Hi-Fi Rush, we liked Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, I think
Bobby,
you liked it. You didn't like it.
I don't think Bobby liked
Bobby,
Hi-Fi Rush at
Bobby
all.
didn't like it.
liked
Never mind.
Hi-Fi
That's
Rush.
right. Bobby didn't like it.
You want to take a look at our review video, Lethal?
Yes, if you'd like to take a look of our review.
Why
I
did
did not
I
like
think Bobby liked it? I have no idea why I thought
and
that.
everybody, it's funny because everybody's like, you're just a Sony pony. And like, I reviewed Scorn and I was like, Scorn's really cool. Like, it's like, as a game, it's lacking, but I love it as a piece of art, right? Like expressive art. And I was like, Scorn is really, really cool. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's very visually like gorgeous and stuff. Like, and I kind of like gushed over it saying like, yeah, some of the gameplay is kind of like stiff and stuff, but I really liked Scorn. It's not that like, I think like Xbox is the worst thing ever. I don't like a lot of the stuff Microsoft does, but I'm not just going to be like, oh, I just didn't like Hi-Fi Rush. I didn't like the way it played. I didn't like, that they didn't really do much of the idea. Like, I'm a musician and they promised me a music game, man. And it was lame. But that's my opinion. So let's talk about this, guys. Was this game marketed correctly? Was this game advertised? Like when Todd came out, I was like, there's going to be unparalleled exploration. This game is going to be so deep. This game, all this stuff. Do you guys feel like that is correct? Is that what Starfield is?
I'm gonna hop in because Todd's I feel like a big factor in people's expectations. I feel like Lethal, you kind of said it best. It's like if you know Bethesda games, like you knew not to expect anything different than like what Bethesda does. Every Bethesda title, let's go back to like Morrowind and Fallout 3. They've been on the same formula for over a decade, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's their style of RPG. It's great. It's the things that you expect Bethesda to do well, they did very well. I think. Like I feel like that's what keeps my attention to this game. But the problem lies, and it's why I feel like outlets are giving it a 7, is that Todd loves to really build up momentum and hype around certain aspects of the games he's done. I mean, let's look at like Fallout 76, right? Like his whole idea and approach was players are going to create the atmosphere, right? We don't need NPCs. Yeah. This new thing is going to be the thing. And he talks so highly of things. I love the way he talks about the systems in his games, but then they just don't bear the fruit that he thought that he was planting in his garden. And I feel like the same with this game, where this game does not have unparalleled exploration. And I feel like that's a big lacking section of this game is the exploration. And so I don't blame people for being like, well, you talked about this so highly, but where is it? Like where is this part of this game? We love your Bethesda part, but where's the new part? The part that you don't usually do. Why is that so lacking when you talked about that so highly? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like Todd, to me, and it's not as bad. I want to stress this, that it's not quite as bad. But Todd, to me, is like Peter Molyneux, right? Like he's got that same condition where he has these really big, grand ideas. And you could like, Todd, I feel like Todd's a little more honest though. Like Todd really wants to do these things. But at the same time, like part of it is like, he's running a big studio with a lot of people that he's got to pay, and he's only got so much money to work with on a game, right? So he has these big lofty ideas, but then he never really capitalizes on them the way he wants to. It's like you said, Chin, but he sells them to you, right? And that's, I think, the problem. Like Todd is one hell of a salesman, but he's selling you, because sometimes he's selling you a bucket of crap, unfortunately, is the nicest way to put it. What do you think, Lethal?
Yeah, Lethal. I know you're loving this game. I want to hear.
No, yeah, as I'm literally playing it as we're doing this podcast.
He is playing. We're watching him on a stream.
Forget that you are.
The video.
You literally told us before we started.
I haven't had a chance to play it like throughout the day today. I already got the chance to play in the morning, so like I'm down to get back into it. But it kind of just goes back to what we were saying. But back to how it was advertised. I mean, I think you guys are pretty much spot on. I mean, like right now, right? I'm just trying to like navigate the stupid like space exploration menu, which is one of my biggest complaints. But like I think that was one of the things too. I don't know about you guys, but like I think I was under the impression that like we were going to do a lot more with space travel, and like I think I had a better idea of how that was going to go when the way they described it. Because in my mind, I'm like, we're going to fly, we're going to leave a planet, we're going to go up through the atmosphere, right? Get into space, and then work our way to the next planet. And it is not like that at all. So I feel like there is those things where I'm just like, man, the way you guys talked about it, it's not at all like that, right? Even with the scope of the game and how they were going about. I remember in that last big showcase, right? They had that whole Starfield,
right?
Yeah, whole Starfield Direct, and I remember them just being like, "You're going to go into like this solar system, and then this solar system, and then this solar system, and this solar system," and it was just going to be like this gigantic thing where I'm just like, "Oh my god!" But then I know we talked about it, and we're just like. But a lot of these are just like, they're barely full planets. They're like moons, right? They all look look the same. And I was definitely in like, I remember telling actually Bobby and Chin, and I was like, my first like 5 hours, I was like, yo, but this moon looks awesome. Like this is really cool. And now that I'm at like 15 hours in, I'm like, I think I've seen the same moon like 20 different times, bro. I'm like, I'm not sure if it's just me or it's just that's just how it is. But even the way that I feel like they describe the planets and the wildlife and stuff like that, I'm just like, I don't know, man. I rarely run into aliens, and I'm thinking I'm going to run into them a lot more than I should be. And so there is a lot of things where I'm just like, man, the way they advertise this game, I get it. To be honest, this needed to be like really like hyped up for Xbox. They obviously needed it. And I'm glad. And regardless, I'm glad it's still a good game. But like, it is one of those things where I'm just like, man, they definitely advertised it one way, and I think my experience with it isn't exactly with how they were advertising it. So that's where I would fall with that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So let's like, okay, so I like how you kind of brought up some of that stuff up, Lethal, because what I want to do now is get into like our actual thoughts on the game, right? Like what we like, what we dislike, and I know we've mentioned some of it, right? Lethal, you mentioned, right, like one of my biggest issues, which is the loading, right? Like this, like I have to go to the solar system map, right? To get everywhere, which doesn't feel like very Bethesda game to me, right? Because like you go play Skyrim or you go play Fallout, and it's like, oh, well, I can, in those games, walk across the map and then on my way stumble across like 2 or 3 other quests. Right. And I don't feel like you get that here. Like, and that feels kind of weak to me.
You know what it is? My expectation was that I was gonna get the Bethesda experience. The Bethesda experience is I've got to make my way to this quest, but I'm gonna walk there, and on the way I'm gonna get distracted by like 30 different things that interest me. That's their formula, and it's amazing. And like Fallout does it great, even in a wasteland. Like Fallout does it amazing. Skyrim, of course, right? Oblivion, Morrowind, like these are mythical, medieval, like magic lands. Like those, of course, are going to be rich with exploration, but like they do it well in Fallout. And so I was thinking, like, I'm gonna be flying, off a planet, and I'm gonna fly into the atmosphere of another planet, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna see something like really cool sticking out of the ground, like some space monolith or some hidden space city that I'm like, dude, I gotta stop here. I gotta land here before I go to my quest. Like that. That's what I was expecting. And it's not there. Instead, it's like, hey, we're going to add extra steps where you have to fast travel to another planet, and then you're just going to be on your feet and doing the stuff that you expect from a Bethesda thing. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I love it when I'm on the ground and like exploring through the cities that they've made, and even some of the procedurally generated areas like the abandoned mines or the research labs. But it's like, well, I just got to load into that. So why is there even 900 or 1,000 planets in the first place? Why?
Yeah, it feels like filler, right?
Yeah.
It takes away from that, like exactly how you said it. It does take away that immersive feel. of like just navigating through the maps and just like finding stuff as you go, because that's definitely something that I felt with this game where I'm like, I like the fact that it's different. I think also like, I think the lens that I try to look at this game a lot is that like, it's so easy to call this like a DLC for Fallout or something, like an expansion of Fallout. There's so many times where I'm like, man, this could easily be labeled as that. And I get like, I feel like I get with them having to do like, you know, like to go into your spaceship, to go into, you know, go back into space and navigate to different planets. Like they're trying to switch it up and make Starfield its own unique identity with something of like having to use your spaceship. But I think it does kind of go back to that thing of like, man, I really wish you guys figured a way for us to just stay in that spaceship and actually navigate through space, maybe come across like bounty hunters or come across stuff in space that kind of helps you still feel that whole thing. Because like the whole thing of like the Bethesda games of the past is like just walking around the wasteland of Fallout, right? Going through the mountaintops and the forest and all this stuff in like Skyrim and stuff like that. So like you not getting that piece of like flying in space and maybe just like running into people or I don't know, just stuff like that. Like that piece there does feel like it takes away from that same level of like, you know, that immersive feel when you're, you know, walking through those games and stuff like that. So that, I think that is definitely a big thing that I can agree to. That's like, it's unique what they're trying to do here with Starfield, but it does take that feeling away from like past games.
Just barely, it just misses the mark.
No, I was gonna say like you guys are right with the immersion, right? Like one of the games that had me, you know, and obviously you guys are gonna go, well, you're a fanboy, right? But like Tears of the Kingdom, I know both of you guys played that game, and like you could easily walk, and you go, okay, I have a thing to do over here, right? I have my quest marker; it's telling me to go there, and like you walk on your way there. If you walk, or if you make a vehicle to get across, or if you fly across, right? You're gonna see something along the way that makes you go, wait, what's that?
Yep.
Right, and you're gonna like veer off to the right to go check out whatever this visual landmark is, right? And that's the biggest thing, like in terms of like open world RPG exploration, that I'm feeling that, you know, like you guys said, Bethesda's missing that mark, right? From like Oblivion and Skyrim, where that happened all the time. It is harder. I want to concede that it is harder to do that in space, right? Like because. You got to think, well, we're traveling light years or whatever. We have to do hyperdrive and all that. But I mean, even with the amount of traveling I've had to do from system to system, you know, I've done a bunch of the faction quests, right? I think I have I'm working with 4 different factions right now, plus the main story. Been all over like the main systems that, you know, been playing about like 40 hours. And it's like, I never exited like, you know, imagine you exited a jump and there's like a derelict ship and then there's, you know, like a xenomorph from Aliens on it, right? Like that that would be like something really cool, dude.
Like, you know, so I'm gonna jump in for a second, because like what game was I playing that recently did that? It was oh man, I can't remember. I don't think it was No Man's Sky, but it might have been. And you know, maybe I sound silly because everyone gets frustrated with the comparisons to No Man's Sky, but it's like, that's what I wanted. Like I wanted what No Man's Sky did. That's what I wanted too,
like with an RPG in it, right? Like, you just do that and put characters in an RPG in it.
Yeah, like I really wanted that, and we didn't get that. Like I wanted that level of space exploration, and especially because like it feels so like last gen on like current gen systems. Like it doesn't feel like they've reinvented anything. Like nothing they've done in this game is like, oh man, like hats off to Bethesda. Like finally someone did that in the game. Like I can't believe they went that far. It's like, no, it's a good Bethesda game as expected, with some new tweaks to a system, and nothing about it screams like, oh my god, like I see why Microsoft needed to buy them. This is why people need to upgrade to next gen and leave their old consoles behind. Like it's just not that game. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
With Redfall too, right? Like Redfall was like, why is this a next gen game?
That was a PS3 game shrouded in Xbox clothing. Okay,
Bobby, I think there's a lot wrong with Redfall. I don't know exactly what happened.
There's too much.
Rest in peace. When Pete Hines said, "Hey, people are going to play that in 10 years," I was like, "People aren't playing it now, Peter. What are you?" Talking about.
It was good when it came out, because I think it came out at a time when it wasn't too much, and it was like, okay, I know for me, I dabbled in it and I actually beat it.
But you beat it, and I was like, this man hates himself.
Because, dude, I'm pretty sure it came out at a time where there just wasn't anything out for a little bit, and I was like, you know what, dude? at least they dropped a good release date time, because like if this was now, bro, nobody would be touching that.
No,
you know what I mean? Like right now it's just like it's a very hectic time, but like that game would not have flown if it dropped today.
It was like 2 weeks before Tears of the Kingdom is when Redfall came out. And you're right, there wasn't a lot there. And I played it like 20 hours, and I just was like, I can't. And you were like, dude, I finished it. I don't know how I finished. I was like, you must hate yourself, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're going through right now.
It's one of those you had to play with friends. It was one of those you had to play with friends. If you weren't playing with friends, it just wasn't going to be a good time. But I mean, that game had so many issues.
I remember calling Chin and go, Chin, look at this. And he was like, what is this? And I was like, it's arcane, man. And he was like, why?
Awful.
This what it is awful. This bad. But yeah, I think you guys are right. Like, it doesn't feel next gen, which is just really weird. And we gotta be real and be like, it's gotta be the creation engine, right?
Yeah, but this is what 2.0, right? That's what it's officially like creation 2.0. I mean,
2.0, quote unquote.
I will say this. I mean, like, there's moments where I felt like, oh, like this looks like it's a step up from I like the last is it 76 is probably the last Bethesda game that I played, and then before that is Skyrim?
Fallout 4.
Well, what was I say? Is it Skyrim or Fallout 4 before that? Because 76 is the most recent, right?
Yeah, and then it was Fallout 4 before that, and then before that was Skyrim.
Oh, really? God damn. Well, I guess for me, it's like, I don't know. I think I can notice the improvements, but it's kind of like, it's one of those where it's like not like crazy improvements, right? It wasn't like, I hate to make that comparison, but it wasn't like when we played, I hate to say about Horizon Forbidden West. Like for me, like that was like, holy shit. Like that was a nice jump from, in my opinion, what was the first one? Zero Dawn. I noticed that. And to be fair, this is, I get what they're saying, like a bigger game or whatever. This is a big sandbox open world game, but like, you notice that jump. And for this one, it's like, okay, this is their new engine or their improved engine. And it's like, I see the improvements. Like I was saying, like Bobby and everybody's like, I feel like I can see it mostly in like the landscapes and like some of the details of some of the certain, like, like New Atlantis. Like, I'm like, okay, this looks pretty, right? Like I think like Neon City, I was like, oh, this is pretty. Like, this looks good. And certain planets, too. I'm like, oh, this looks nice at nighttime. Like, there's certain things I'm like, oh, I can see those improvements, but there's still like sometimes like those performance issues, right? There's still sometimes like I notice like little visual bugs. I seen a gun like filtering through the door, and I'm like, bro, like there's still some things where I'm like, it's like it's nicer in some aspects, and in other aspects, I'm like, it's still the same. It's almost just the same as as the past games.
I'm hopping back in. I wasn't listening to like the last 2-3 minutes because I was like glued into Google because I was like, I need to know what game it was that I played where I found like abandoned ship. It was No Man's Sky. It was
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Because I remember you telling me that when you were walking in. I was like, what is this? And you're like, oh, it's No Man's Sky. They added this update.
This insane update where like you can get like a ping from like abandoned ships that were overtaken by like alien fungals or whatever like that, and you would go into like land on the ship and you had to navigate it without getting caught by sensors and things like that. Like I was like, how does No Man's Sky have this? I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't care if people get upset that I'm compared to No Man's Sky, but like that's what I wanted in Starfield, dude. I want abandoned like freight ships that I have to like dock on and go into and scour for aliens or for equipment or resources, right? Or like things like that. And where is all of that? That's what I want. Now, maybe that might be going to my over expectations. That's probably on me. But I just feel like when you go out there and you say, hey, unlimited exploration in space, I'm like, well, that comes with expectations of like the kind of crazy stuff you'd want to see in a space game. I don't want to just fly around in empty space. I want stuff in there.
I was thinking Star Wars. Like, I mean, that's the easiest thing that I could think of. Like when I was thinking about this game, I was like, oh, it's just going to have like a cool, like Star Wars kind of feel like in space. Like I'm assuming I'm gonna like go around, maybe get in some dogfights, with some enemy, like ship that wants to like fight me for whatever reason. Like, or I'm gonna find like an alien ship or something. Like I'm expecting like that, or like you're gonna run into people who are gonna want to do like races with you. Like I'm thinking we're gonna do like outer space like racing and stuff, like just random stuff. And I'm like, there's that stuff where I'm like, oh man, all that stuff is missing, and like that's pretty much the new. That is when you think about it, that is like the newest. That's like the big new thing of Starfield, right? Like that's what's supposed to set this apart. I feel like from the other games, it is the fact that this takes place in space, and you're gonna get all those things that come with space travel, right? Yeah. And there is some cool stuff like the thing is, I haven't messed with it enough yet, and I don't know how much I care to do it, right? But like there is like, you know, customizing your ship, right? And you able to customize like the kind of weapons, or do you want to make your missile stronger, your laser stronger? Yeah. But like there's moment, I mean, bro, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys, but like I don't even like the combat. Like I hate the way it feels being in the ship. Like I genuinely like when I try to fight, and when you do get into those moments of like dogfights in space, I hate it. I'm like, dude, I hate the way this feels. Like either I'm doing it in first person or third person. I'm like, it still sucks. It like sucks. You know, you have to lock on and you have to like try to like navigate by like following the enemy ship. Like, but it feels so like, it just feels like crap. I just don't like the way it feels.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. The space. I mean, one of the things from what I've heard is that like the HUD, right? Like all the aiming and stuff like that of the spacecraft is like locked at like 30 or something.
Maybe. I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's why that feels really weird. And I heard that, I was like, oh, that would explain a lot why it feels just slow and clunky.
Well, honestly, I don't know many games that have ever done flight combat great. Like even Battlefield, I really just didn't care to be in a jet or a helicopter when it was an option. I feel like nothing's really captured that. Like we figured out how to make cars feel good in games, but for some reason, just like flying always feels cool in a game. But when you have to do combat with it, it's where it always just feels like crap.
Yeah, I think the closest thing that I played is like Star Wars Squadrons feels pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's the best feeling.
Is like those Star Wars games. Yeah.
That's like the
No Man's Sky doesn't feel that good either.
Right?
Like I hate the space combat in No Man's Sky. It sucks. It's the same. It's like feels the exact same as Starfield. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I will say though, like I know there might be people in here who are just like like got the rabies mouth with anger at the stuff that we're saying, because I'll be honest, we spent, you know, a good amount of chunk like kind of tearing apart the things we don't like. But I still want to be clear that like I'm really having a good time with this game. Like I've got issues with it, but there's still something that keeps me going. Dang, when I'm off for the weekend, I kind of want to boot up Starfield and play some missions and goof around and level up and try out new things. Like the core of Bethesda's there, and if you like Bethesda, you will like this game. Like it's there. There's things that they tried to do new things, and they kind of missed the mark, but they tried. But Bethesda's tried and true formula feels like better than ever right now. I'll be honest.
Yeah, there are absolutely things. Yeah, that's one of the things I want to be clear about too. There's absolutely things that I do love about the game. Right, the faction.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, dude.
Fantastic.
They're still so good. Like the faction in this game, I was just as like excited to hear about them and learn about them as I was from like, you know, learning about the Brotherhood for the first time, right? And like and stuff like that. So like when I don't want to cut you up, Bobby, but just like when you brought up Remy talked about like the United Colonies and stuff like that, dude. I got so excited because that was just like a cool. It's a cool thing when they kind of mentioned it. And I was like, oh, it's like a space cop thing. I'm like, dude, this is sick.
Dude, I'm gonna be a space cowboy.
Gonna go into it.
Like I'm gonna be a space cowboy. That's so sick. Like I love that.
Like working with the Freestar or the UC or like I've done a ton of the Ryujin. That's been my favorite. But there's gameplay reasons for that because there's a lot of stealth. And I'm one of those, like I love stealth games.
Love stealth.
Metal Gear, old Assassin's Creed. Like I love that. You know, so for me, I'm like, yeah, this is cool, right? But like every one of them, I think Crimson Fleet is like great so far. Like the Crimson Fleet to me is like, in terms of their story, is like hands down the best one. Like in terms of gameplay, I like the Ryujin more because it's just like I said, I'm a slut for stealth, right? But you know, and they have a lot of stealth missions, but like in terms of the story and like the characters, I really think the Crimson Fleet is like a special standout storyline in Starfield, and I think it's really cool to have all those factions and the side quests, right? We just, you know, me and Chin, I told Chin after I found it and did it, I was like, hey, you get a side quest called Mantis, do it, right? And then Lethal, we saw Lethal, and Lethal's like, oh yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't done it. And so we told him like, yeah, go do it, right?
It's cool.
That's a
Literally,
really
I
great
had
side
awesome
quest,
mission.
right?
I literally had it in my inventory the entire time. But like that
Yeah,
goes to
the whole
show
game,
like
right?
but that goes to show like that's the Bethesda part of it, right? That's the part
Yep.
that like, oh my god, like I discovered that I didn't know I had it this whole time. Like those are the little quirks where I'm like,
Love that.
that's why we keep coming back. Like
Yes.
I know we're like talking about like the shitty space flight and all that stuff like that, but like there is those core, right? The core of like how Chin was saying, the core of Bethesda that's still there. Like, dude, just walking through people's houses and stealing their stuff, or just going to places where I can just loot people's like their credits or whatever. Like all that stuff it just screams like Bethesda, and I love that
fact
stuff.
that you
right?
can still-
Getting my own house, yeah, dude. Like all those things
the
are
fact
just
that
so
you can
important.
still put a pot on someone's head and that makes your sneaking 100, so you could just steal whatever. That's hilarious. I don't know. I haven't tested it, but I want to know if I can put a grenade in someone's pocket and make them blow up like you couldn't like Fallout 3. If I can do that,
Oh my god,
then
dude.
I might say it's a 10 out of 10 game.
I mean, like, I do want to say, okay, so Lethal brought up something, I meant to talk about this earlier, right? And I don't want to go back to seem like it being negative, but Todd, I have a 4070 and a Ryzen 5900X. I don't know what you expect me to upgrade to get better performance of this game, but the optimization of this game is ass. It is ass. And if you don't play with the DLSS mod with frame gen, like in Neon, I was on medium settings getting like 35 FPS.
It's too high and low. There's places where you're like, cool, I'm getting like max frames, and then you're like, why is this city going to 25 frames right now? Like it's a little all over the place. But yeah.
I mean, you got a 3080 Ti. What are you rocking, Lethal?
I think it's the same thing. I think it's either a 3080 or a 3070, but I think it's a 3080. I was just telling them I literally just upgraded my PC stuff like a month ago. So like a lot of my stuff is new,
Starfield.
just in time for no. I'm being dead serious. Like it was a big part of it was because of Starfield. I was like, dude, I was rocking like a 1070 before. I mean, I'm not that crazy into like PC stuff or whatever, but this is like, I use it for the content creation and work and stuff like that. But it is going to be my go-to Xbox Game Pass or PC Game Pass when it comes to playing these games. So I did want to get it kind of souped up for this, and I think for me, for the performance stuff, I haven't noticed it too much. But I mean, there's definitely, like I said, there's definitely moments where you're in some cities or whatever, and you see those frames drop, and it's just like, oh damn. But I mean, I know for me, it's in that ballpark of like I expect that. Like it's one of those things where like, oh, I expect to be like playing this at like 25 in certain parts. It's going to be weird and janky, and that just comes with like that that optimization that I expect from Bethesda. I wasn't expecting anything like super clean. I mean, and to be fair, I do feel like in comparison to past Bethesda games, performance wise, I do feel like it is a step above from past
100%.
games. Like this feels like you could tell they took that extra time to actually get some optimization better for it. And again, there's places where you feel it, but I think for the most part, I'm like, ooh, this is a pretty smooth experience, in comparison to past games. So I definitely feel that, I guess, on my own. But I think you guys said you feel it too. So I think we definitely feel that overall for sure.
Okay, so I do want to ask, with the release of Starfield, is Xbox saved? Lethal, what do you think?
Yo, this isn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, put it this way: this is definitely a game that they like needed to help bolster their portfolio, their lineup, right? To show like this is why you want to get a Game Pass, because this is a very compelling game to get people to want to play Game Pass. Like I was literally talking to a family member that was just telling me that like they have Xbox, and they're like, I don't really play it often, but this is the game that I'm like, I saw people talking about it and I want to play it. So like it is that game, but I mean this is I think still like not enough. Like I think they still need to have I don't want to say a bunch of games, but like they just still need to have the whole thing of like the consistency of games coming out for their platform, because they still have like I was talking about it with a friend not that long ago, and I'm thinking about like next year what games to expect from PlayStation. I'm like, oh man, we really don't know too much and everything. And I go for Xbox, I'm like, there's tons of games that were announced that are still not out yet, right? Like Avowed, right? What is it? Fable.
Yeah, and we don't
like,
have dates for them either.
Yeah,
right?
and there's like that Senua's game, and I'm like, dude, they still have like games to like release that were announced when the console was like debut, like came out, was debuted and revealed and everything. So I'm like, they have so many games to still get out that they've already announced before. So like it is that thing where I'm like, this is definitely something that they needed. But if you sat here and told me like, Xbox is good now, everything is like great, I'm like, no, like there's still that issue with like that AAA cadence of releases. They still need that because, a lot of the games from every other publisher, I think has kind of come out, whereas Xbox they're still sitting on those 4 or 5, right, that had been announced like 4 or 5 years ago. So in my opinion, this isn't enough, but I mean, it's still a game that needs to be played. Like, I still think this is a game you play. Like, when you have a moment, you play this game. But for Xbox overall, nah, they definitely need more, I think.
Yeah. I like how blunt you were with it. You just straight up said no.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's pretty much the same sentiment. It's a good start. It's a good way to kind of turn your ship around, but it is not on course yet. It is there's a lot to do because now, in my opinion, this is their only game. Like, there's Halo sucks.
In 2 years, basically.
Halo sucks. Halo's not good. And like, you never want to say that about Halo. Like, that's not good for your brand when that's like the thing people associate with you is Master Chief in Halo, and it's not good. I know how people love to say, oh, we have Forza. I'm like, yeah, I love racing games. Like, I really do. But how niche is a racing game, dude? Like, there's nothing on Xbox right now. And like, I mean, Game Pass in itself is a good seller because it's like, dude, at least on PC, $10 a month, and like I get access to a bunch of games. Like, yeah, for sure. But is Starfield like? I also like what you said, Lethal. Starfield's enough to get Game Pass, but you didn't say it's enough to buy an Xbox, and that's two very different things. Because like, if you already have an Xbox, like you said, your friend, right? They have an Xbox, they don't have Game Pass. Well, cool, you already have the Xbox, get the Game Pass, play Starfield. But it's like, would I tell someone to, hey, go buy an Xbox and then buy Game Pass to play Starfield? No, I don't think I would. I would say if you already had plans to get a PC in the future, you could try Starfield when you get your PC, but I'd never say go out and buy an Xbox just to play this. So yeah, it's a big NO. This does not save Xbox.
I think too. I just want to quickly jump on that because like I know we're all understanding too that like Xbox is in that place where they're not. I don't even think they're really trying to sell consoles anymore, right? I think that's kind of well known at this point.
Yeah,
they're so out of that the question I think needs to be posed is like, is this enough to keep you on Game Pass for the rest of the year or whatever? And it's like no. Like I'm not renewing this after September. I'm good. After September, I'm done. Like it's one of those where like
that's
like
good.
you
now
have to ask that question of like, are you staying with us? I'm like, no. I'm ending my subscription. I already made sure that it's going to cancel on October 4th, and I'm like I'm going to get my Starfield my Starfield this out, and then after that I'm done. Like, but the thing is, right? Like that's the goal of Xbox is right now is to make me want to stay with them, right? Make me not want to let go of that Game Pass subscription because it is that thing of like it's not really about the consoles. It's more so like how do I keep you on the subscription? And I don't think this one game is enough to keep me.
Well,
you got this Liza P, right? You got Liza P in 2 days.
Yeah, Liza P, which is going to be awesome. But I mean, that's a great way to phrase that because you're right. Xbox, I mean, they flat out said like it's not about the consoles anymore. It's about their Game Pass, and I think you're right. The question does need to be framed that way. But yeah, no, this game, I mean, first off, it's a single player game. It's not even a live service game, right? If this was, let's look at a year in the future when the Activision deal's finally closed and they're offering Call of Duty and, you get a certain amount of like COD points every month if you're subscribed to Game Pass, then maybe that's something that'll keep people on.
Yeah, they're going to get numbers from that if they do that.
100%. But a single player game with an odd level of like it's in a weird realm. While I feel like this game doesn't have too much replayability because it feels like Skyrim where I'm going to be able to do everything in a run through. And then I know there's New Game Plus and you can just kind of keep going through it, but this isn't the kind of RPG where it's like, oh, well, I made these choices. Let me go back and make these choices and then go back and make these choices. Because based off what I've heard, you can just pretty much keep playing until you unlock everything. So the replayability angle is gone. I wouldn't renew this.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I'm in the camp with Lethal, like, and you as well, Chin, right? You guys both said no, Xbox isn't saved. It does come down to consistency, right? Like I buy Nintendo, right? I have 3 Switches because I have 2 in my room and 1 in the loft, right? because I like Nintendo games. I have a PlayStation because I like PlayStation games, right? And I will always play Xbox games on my PC if I'm interested in them, like I was with Starfield. But yeah, I definitely don't see after I'm done with my run through going like, yeah, you know, I got to play Starfield like 8 more times. So I'm going to keep Game Pass just so I can put like 1,000 hours into this game.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a person who really does do that, you know, at that point, just buy it. Like, because if there's nothing else for you on Game Pass, and that's going to be the thing with like Call of Duty people too, right? Is it's going to be like, okay, do you want to buy Call of Duty and do the deluxe edition for $100? Or do you want to pay, you know, let's say they do just console Game Pass, but then you don't get online, right? That's $10. So you have to do Game Pass Ultimate to get online with it, which is $18 a month. So are you going to pay, what is that? Like $300 some odd dollars, right?
Something like that.
Like something, no, it's like $200 some odd dollars.
So your math's a little high, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's $200 some odd dollars, right, to play Call of Duty for the year.
Yeah.
And sure, you get like 50 COD points a month or whatever, 100 COD points a month.
I would hope,
like,
I hope it's more than
it?
that if that's if what they do.
I don't pay for COD points, and I haven't played COD aside from what I think I played the beta with you a little bit, but that's, you know, like I don't know how COD points work, but let's say they give you enough like that it's like $5 a month. Like, does that make it worth it at that point? Like for you versus you just buying COD and then paying for whatever points you might want, right? So that Game Passing comes back full circle. But yeah, in terms of like, you know, last question was worth the buy or Game Pass. I'd say you guys are both on the Game Pass route, right? Yeah, and I would say the same.
Not buying
even if you like Bethesda games, I would say do the Game Pass, play it for a month. If you really fall in love with it and you're like, this is the best game I've ever played, use your discount to buy it, you know, and then you've basically paid for the game full price, but you at least got to try it out first, like no risk for Game Pass money. And yeah, but otherwise, like, you know, Starfield is good. It's not great and it's not awful. It's good, right? It's a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10, right? I think we've all come to that conclusion. It's one of those games that where you find a bunch of stuff that's wrong with it, but you could get into it still, right?
Yeah, it's a weird package. The great parts are great. The mediocre parts are extremely mediocre. And it's like as a package, it's a good game, but it's got great things that keep you coming back.
Yeah, it's the good, the bad, and the mid, right? Like it's basically how it boils down to like everything about Starfield, right?
Yeah,
there's some stuff that's good, even bordering on great from what I've seen. So that's pretty bad, and some stuff that's just like, okay, you know. So, all right, with that, we're gonna wrap it up. So you guys got anything else to say about Starfield?
No, we've been talking forever. Nobody's even stayed this late in the video.
All right, if you stayed this late,
for people that did though, play Starfield. You should
play
owe it to
Starfield.
yourself to at least give it a shot and play. It is fun.
Yes,
like that's the bottom line of what we're saying is that it's still fun.
It is
Big
fun.
agree.
It's worth like pay for a month of Game Pass, play through it, and then if you enjoy it, buy it. If you don't, just end Game Pass.
Do they still have those dollar deals? I was gonna say, do the dollar deal. They
got rid of that right before Starfield because they were like, well, we don't want people to try.
I was gonna say take advantage of that dollar deal, but never mind. If it's gone, you're gonna have to pay the price. But you know,
pay the
get it for a month.
Yeah, try it.
month.
You know. So all right. Again, I'm LittleBobby, Chin, and Lethal. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out and talking Starfield today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
All right. Hey, and if you've been watching this and you stayed this long, consider subscribing. Leave us a like. And if you didn't like this video, leave us a dislike and let us know in the comments down below what we can do to improve for next time. I'm LittleBobby here with Lethal One Up and the Platinum Chin for Direct Gaming. Thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you soon.